All right, welcome back. This is Aisha Price, and we are in week 5 of Microsoft Excel. And this is our intro to Microsoft Excel, Word, and PowerPoint class. And today we are talking about charts and pivot tables and using some of those features with our data. Right now, we have a spreadsheet that we have been working on, and the spreadsheet has some player information. This is all fictitious information that we're utilizing just for the purposes of this practice exercise. And the original data, we found it on the EDU website for Global Foundation, and it talks about different tools you can use and different strategies for Microsoft Excel. And today, this is just an overview of pivot tables. So when you want to start your pivot tables, you just watched a video about pivot tables. But when you want to start them, you want to make sure that you have all the data that you are looking for in one area, and it's all organized horizontally and vertically. Okay. I suggest just highlighting all your information, and you've already sorted it by alphabetical order. You don't really have to do that. You could really just have a bunch of titles and and names and numbers below. You always want to make sure that your information is sorted accordingly and organized formally, because if it's not organized, it's going to make it harder to produce your pivot table. So that's why I always suggest when you have data, just make sure that it's horizontally, that you see this data going this way along the page, and it flows and has all the rows and columns that you need. I suggest putting your main features on your columns, excuse me, on your rows, and then putting the sorting features that you like to use on your columns. Okay. And that helps you when you're creating these different, when you're doing data mining and creating charts and puzzles, and excuse me, charts and graphs and pivot tables. I don't know where I got puzzles from, but pivot tables. Okay. So I'm going ahead and highlighting the data that I want to appear. So make sure you highlight the first name. If you want to highlight this first row, you can. I'm just not going to highlight it because I don't really need the last names. Excuse me, the first names. I need the last names. Okay. Sometimes you may have people that have the same first and last name. So you might want to go ahead and highlight that. So it just depends on you. You would have everything highlighted that you want. Then you click on pivot table. Okay. And it will tell you that you can create the pivot table from the table range. Okay. And then you want to tell it to put the pivot table in a new sheet. So new worksheet, not existing worksheet. Okay. And then once you have your pivot table, you can just keep it blank for right now and we'll rename it. And then you see that over here on your right hand side, you're not going to see any of the data here because the pivot table is asking you to sort the data. So it wants to know what information is important to you and how you want it to flow. So I definitely want the rows to have the last name. Okay. I want to know what position the student played. I also want to know what school the student attended. So all of those are still going in my rows. Or I may want to know, so we can try different things. So we can try the school. So if we try putting, let's see, we can tell it that you want values for how many are at that school. Okay. So for how many based on the pitch. Okay. I don't really like that one. So I'm going to do is tell it I want to keep this under here with the naming, or you can tell it you want it to filter it by the school. Okay. And then the values that I want here would be, I would say I want dues paid. I want to know what the dues were paid for each person. Okay. And if I want to go through per school, you see, I go back here on the left and I can click either. So this is highlighted all the schools. I just want to click one school. You can select which schools you want. To say I just want, so you click on select multiple items and say I just want to select Briarwood. So that's selected first. So I just want to see who is at Briarwoods and what's the grand total of dues that we collected. What are the different individuals' names, right? And what is the position that they're playing. So you can break it up by different schools if you want. Um, and then if you say, for example, you want to go back and see, maybe you don't want to see Briarwood, you want to see Freedom, and you want to see that. Okay. So you can see the grand total of how many dues are paid at Freedom. You can see the individuals that are registered there at Freedom, their last names, and their position. So say you need to break it out per school. Okay. So those are different ways you can break it out. Say for example, we want to switch it and we want to know the position. Okay. And we're telling it we want to know for a certain school and we want to know for certain positions. Okay. So you can select all the positions and say, I want to do pictures. And I could type in here the pictures and it will pull up all the pictures. Oops, it's not giving me what I wanted. Yeah, all the pictures. Let's say, tell it to do all schools. So you can see all the pictures, all the dues paid for the positions by the schools. This is all the schools. You can deselect, just pick the schools you want. Or you could tell it you don't want that by the schools. You can either switch it out. You just want the school, or you want say you want the position. So you want the school listed there, but you want the positions. So it's all of them. I'll tell all the positions. Click in the all button, and then you get all the positions. Okay. So there's different ways that you can sort out your data. I think I don't want to filter it by positions. I just want to know the sums of dues paid. And what if I want to know, switch it around and do per school and say I wanted it that way. So I can pick for the school. I don't like that one. So I can move it around. So that's doing the count of the school. This is dues paid. Okay. So it's good to have different positions and different numbers in there too. So that way it could sort. And then as the video discussed, say for example, you have your chart, you have your information that you want, and then you could tell it to insert a pivot chart. Okay. And then you can tell it which chart you want. I'm going to click on a pie chart. And my pie chart will show you can name it, you can change all the parameters to show you to label it. I could also, what if I wanted to do it not by last name, but I just wanted to do it by school? Okay. So I could also take out, I could even take out names and just do positions per school if I wanted to. You can remove this field and then you could do positions per school. And then you could format it to add data labels for you and tells you how much the dues were paid at each school. Okay. So you can do that. There's a lot of cool ways to, tell you this one was by picture, by position. But what if I just want to change it? Okay. And I don't want to just do, I want to, so it's already sorted that way. So you would need to change this first. So you want to go back to your table, your pivot table, and change what you want it filtered at. Okay. So I have only a few schools, but then if I add all the schools, you see how it goes. And say, for example, I wanted to change, so you can get out of this. So clear that. And say, for example, I wanted to change some of the field in my data. Say I just want to know not the positions anymore. Go here, click on my pivot table. But say I don't want to know the positions anymore. I'm going to remove that field. I just want to know per school how much dues were paid. And it clearly shows me that Rockridge did not have any dues paid, but we see Briarwoods has amount of dues paid for 300. Freedom, you can format these for numbers by clicking here, highlighting them, right? Freedom had $440 of dues collected. Heritage had $400. Parkview had $345. Rockridge had zero because they didn't collect their dues yet. And then Stonebridge and Woodgrove, Stonebridge had $360 and Woodgrove had $380. So it shows you a total amount. So anytime you want to go back and change any filters here, you can add them by looking at these are the pivot table fields, and you choose the fields to add. You can scroll up and down here to select them or deselect them if you want. And then you would just drag them to whichever area you want to show. And it takes time to um, for you to always, do all this functioning and changing different things. But I think it's good to know how to do it in multiple ways. So this is a chart. This is our chart. I'll say 2 dues paid by school. Okay. This was another one that I was playing around with. I didn't want to use it, so I can delete it. Always save your documents. You can change the titles of these. So you can say total dues paid per school. All right. And you can also change the way it looks. You can fill it in. You can edit the text if you want. If you want to change your chart, you just click in anywhere in the chart and right click and do change chart type, chart series. You can do a bar chart. You can do a line chart. Line charts are good too because it's easy. It tells you right from the school. You have your schools down here. This is just different way of information showing data. So Briarwoods tells you how many students, how much dues they collected. You can also tell it to do per student, and we can do a little small formula for it to count how many students are in each class. You can do that too, or in each school, excuse me. You can do that too. Say, for example, we just wanted to know the information. Let's see, this one's by school. Say the t-shirt size, we talked about. All right. So say, for example, I need to know, I'm going to unselect and filter all of these. So say, for example, I wanted to do a pivot table on the size of shirts I need to order. And I needed to tell me who has what. So I'm going to tell it to delete some information for me when I do the pivot table. So let's highlight all of that, insert, click on pivot table, from table range, click new worksheet. And then I'm going to tell it that I want to know t-shirt size by name and school. Okay. And so I'm going to change up some of the filters that I want. So I think I want, hold on, I want to do t-shirt size. No, keep my t-shirt size over there. I'm going to do school up here. And then I'm going to tell it to count. So this one has all the schools. You break it up here, tell it to select multiples, and then you can change to whatever school you want. Deselect all, click on the school you want. So these are the individuals, but I wanted to tell me to count. I wanted to count the t-shirts per size. So you could tell it to do both if you want. So, and you could tell it to do count right here, custom. You can tell it to count for you. And I'm going to move it over here. And then I'm going to click back in it because I want to know for all of them. So deselect that, click all here. And so I'm going to want to know the t-shirt size as well. Okay. Say for example, I don't need it per school. I just need the t-shirt size. And what I could do is keep it here, or I could move it here as a column and then have it calculates it for me here too at the bottom. So that way I'll know each school and I could highlight it and make it pretty if I want. I just hold it down, hit control. Oops. And when I hit control down, it's just basically letting me format multiple rows. And I'm going to put some borders in them, around them, and then put the borders inside so I can see. I could also make them different colors if I wanted. And then if I wanted to do, any changes to it, I can do that as well. Can change the way I want it to look. You can change your titles if you want. Okay. That's your page setup. But you can change any type of titles you want in here. You can change your grid lines. You can change your backgrounds. You can make it different colors per row. So it just depends on, this one was t-shirt size by school, right? So that's what I wanted to find for this chart. Okay. And so I'm going to label it what I wanted. I wanted t-shirt. And you can do count of t-shirt size. You can also move it around here. Have your schools appear if you want. I don't like the way that looks. Let me see. School. You can do it that way. Let's say, for example, I want to know the dues paid or position they're in. Excuse me. That's what I really want to know. So there's a lot of different. Where's the dues paid? There's a lot of different ways you could filter it out. Let's go over here. Position. Where's my dues paid? Here's dues paid. Some of dues paid. So I could do it that way as well, or I could have it sort by the school. And that way I would only have to look at one school at a time. Say I need to order something, do it one school at a time. And it would be the same information you saw at the earlier chart that told us how many students had paid and how many students paid their dues per school. So I did like that feature. So you can decide how you want your pivot tables to look, and your charts. Okay. And it just really depends on the question that is being asked of you and what information you're looking for in your chart. Pivot table, and this is the school sizes, I believe I did. A t-shirt size. Pivot table. I'm also going to upload this spreadsheet that I used on Schoolology, so you guys can get a chance to see mine, and you can see, look in it. Although it's easier, I think, to watch the videos and things of that nature. But if you want to look at mine, you're more than welcome to look at mine. Okay. I'm just going to probably make it a little bit more fancy, but it just depends on you. You don't have to. Just remember, when you click into different fields, then that determines your filters for the different fields. And so if you want to have some practice doing that, that would be great. Okay. So this is paid per school, t-shirt, pivot table. So far we did a chart. This one has a chart and a pivot table. Okay, this one has your pivot table. This one is your filtered by t-shirt size. This is filtered by school. And you can either just copy and paste it from the original one and then let it filter by school for you. This one is filtered by position. There's another one by school. You can always put those close together. Change the colors of them if you want. If you want all the schools to be different colors. This one's by position. This is filtered by the schools. So that's freedom. So that's the same one we did before. Just as practice. And I think this one has a filter in it. So you could see that it's all, so it's not really by freedom. So this is just filtered by school, filtered by position. Because it has a filter in it. And it's sourcing all of the data. Okay. So that's the difference with the filtering and the sorting. This was our chart. And this chart, you can play around with your charts when you start doing opening the charts, because you can change all the different data features in the chart. So if you see chart design, there's so many different chart designs and chart styles that you can use. You want to make sure that sometimes it gets frozen because it's a lot of information. So picking your parameters, I think, is the best way to format your charts, and changing your chart type, changing your data. Let me save mine because mine looks like doesn't like all these commands. Let me save it. So there's different chart types, of course, we talked about. Okay. It just really depends on what type of data you're looking for and what is it that you need, the question you need answered. Okay. That determines you have 3D charts. I like 3D charts because they're real helpful depending upon what you're looking for. Okay. It's nice to see it in a graphical way. And then you can filter your chart so it's not all the series aren't the same. So this one's by column name, but then you can take out or add any series that you want, and you'd have to tell it, which series you want to apply um, for that. And it's basically telling you what parameters are you looking for. All right. But there's a lot of fun, tools with charts. And then it can get a little crazy. So you want to stop yourself at a certain period because they charts are really fun. I'll say that. Let me go to the home page. And so those are some overviews of what we did today, right? Here's just another pivot table that I created by school. And all I did was click on the last name, and then some of my columns are by school up here. These are my values I wanted it to find. And then my rows were the last name and the t-shirt size. Or I could have put the last name in the school. I also did sums of age. So I wanted it to find two values. I wanted it to find the sum of age, and I wanted it to find the sum of dues paid. What I might want it to find is the t-shirt size instead of the sum of age. Okay. So I may want the age here, and I may want the t-shirt size here because I might have to order these t-shirts. And so I want to know how many I need to order. Okay. So that will tell me per school how many t-shirts I need to order. Okay. Now, sometimes it does really funny things. So you have to just play around with it. Unfortunately, it's one of those type of softwares where there's so many different ranges of data that you're looking for. So playing around with it and getting the feel of the lay of the land, I'll say, and making sure that you're finding the data that you want successfully is really the only challenge with it. Everything else is kind of fun, just so you can get an idea of what's the purpose of it. Okay, so let's go over any questions that we have for the homework, and I'm going to stop the video.